There's an old adage that says, it's not how you start, but it's how you finish that matters most. But we know in the Premier League that the start you have, especially the first 10 games, can truly define how your season ends up. And on this week's episode of One Kick from Glory, we're going to be discussing that. We've picked out 6 teams whose first 10 games we're going to focus on this week. And I'm joined by Matthew on this one. So we're going to start off with the team, like as I said last week, have a 43-point swing they need to make up. And that is, of course, Chelsea. Going through hard times right now under the Todd Bowley leadership. But lots of changes. You know, we've seen Manny Mays move on. We've seen Ruben Loftus-Cheek move on to Milan, joined by Christian Pulisic. Pulisic, a player that, I mean, you know, I think 3 of your 4 players that have left the club in recent times, you know, Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, had a big love for Chelsea and just unfortunately for many different reasons hasn't quite worked out. But enough on the players that are like. Actually, before we get into the top 10 fixtures, let's talk about those last 2, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Christian Pulisic, both going to AC Milan, both wearing the shirt now. The shirt does suit them both, to be fair. How do you feel about both of those departures, and what do you want to see Chelsea do to kind of replace the quality those players had, if not necessarily the availability or the frequency of playing them?
It was always going to be a case of those kind of players were always going to be lost. Their time at club was, you can look at it as like a bit of a 5 out of 10, where it could have been more for what they did, all the trophies they brought back, like Europa Leagues, Champions Leagues and whatever, which sounds great. It really could have been, it promised more, especially when Pulisic was announced to come in. Big things were expected with him. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we've known for years and years. I've been watching the first time on Sky Sports years ago, breaking on, like, it's not one of our midfield talents. And for all percentages and purposes, he probably had one good season. And he played probably some of his best football for other teams. Pulisic just had that horrible injury at the FA Cup final. He was on fire before then, properly on fire. And I thought, oh, great, I just love watching this guy, Captain America, scoring all these great goals. And I think that horrible injury just really knocked, and the quality just disappeared. I mean, Champions League, he practically missed a sitter. I mean, Ice could have scored that, and that's what I thought, like, the downfall is coming. So I genuinely don't know how much longer this guy has. I don't even remember the fact that he's scored since then, which is crazy to think of a guy of that quality. And he's still young. He's still young. Both of them really still are still young. They're both pretty much starters, just not for us. The regime just, I think really the love that they had, like you said, the love that they had just wasn't enough for the regime there, where it's like they want to put their stamp down on things and we just don't recognise players as good as they are and as much as they care about the club. It's not where we're kind of moving forward. So we didn't put much of a defence for them leaving, but you know what? They left with, I think, I don't know, it's a kind of a bit of a bittersweet leaving, because you always knew there could have been just more to kind of come from them. But they're going into our second favourite place, which is AC, joining Tomori and Giroud. So they're going to be in good hands. So all I can really say for the pair of them is, you know what, fellas, it didn't work, but, you know, just what, if they're in Champions League this year, aren't they, AC Milan?
Yeah.
I'll be keeping a very close eye on you guys. So I'll be keeping a very close eye. Let's see if Milan can do it next year. Forza Milan, eh? Let's see if another one can do it. If not one, then the other.
Fair enough. And obviously there was news, of course, of David Fofana has gone out on loan to Germany, which I think is a good move for him. Strange transfer all round. I mean, fair play to him. It's a good pay packet. Obviously, he was able to help people out, but just didn't really work out from a footballing perspective. But let's talk about those opening 10 fixtures, because it's kind of hard to sort of predict and project what your opening 11 is going to be, because we're so far away. There's still a lot of business to be done. But with the players you currently have and the players that are in the club still, what are you expecting? So your first game of the season is on the 13th of August against Liverpool at home. Big game to open the season at Stamford Bridge. Massive game for both teams. Liverpool will be looking to show the world that, last season was just a blip and they're back. You'll be looking to show the world that last season was definitely a blip and that will never happen again. And all of us will have our popcorn waiting for entertainment either way. But what 11 are you expecting Mauricio Pochettino to name for his first ever team at Stamford Bridge.
It wouldn't surprise me if he starts Nkunku and Jackson both at the same time.
Okay.
I think as good. I know Nkunku can play as a striker, but I think he's good as a 10. So I think Jackson is an out-and-out striker, which is what we have. He's going to put him. I mean, we're like, so with Lukaku looking like he's going to go somewhere else, and Brozier, his recovery just hasn't come through yet. He's our first and foremost available striker. Fofana's gone. He's going to be put up front. I could see Mudryk, and I think maybe I think he's going to start Sterling. Okay. I think he's going to start Sterling. Like we said last time, if I see him as one of the generals of our club, he's one of the generals of the Premier League. He's going to need that kind of second chance of like, I'm putting you responsible on that right hand side. You're not going to be playing that right wing back nonsense like you were last year. You're going to stick on the attacking side where you'll play your best stuff. Let's see what you can do when you actually A, give service to another striker, or B, think of it yourself. So I think he'll be there as well. Or we said Mudryk on the left. Where it gets difficult is the midfield because we've lost Kante, we've lost Kovacic, we've lost Loftus-Cheek, we've obviously lost Mount. It's going to be really, really hard. We can't really have one person just sitting there on his own. So Enzo's going to be there. I reckon he'll have to play Gallagher because he has to, not necessarily because he wants to. Plus, with that Mason Mount hole there, Gallagher's going to have a chance to kind of embrace the role a little bit more and step up and maybe have a bit more freedom and also that responsibility to kind of plug that what we have. Defense, I can see Thiago being a squad player. He's 38. He can't do it all the time. If we're moving forward, he can't be playing he just simply can't play every game. I can see. Obviously, we're going to have Chilly Willy and Reece James on either side. So if they're both fit, we can see some massive improvements in our game, and it's going to be either Badia Shield and Wesley Fofana. I think Wesley Fofana, Jutta restart. I mean, injuries galore for him. I think he was frankly injured by the time he started playing for us.
Yep.
But when he did turn up, he showed just how his quality and just how good he is. I mean, there's a reason. I think the reason why we tapped him up in the first place, I think this goes back, to the FA Cup final in 2021 when we played Leicester. I remember watching him thinking he could be with us. And that was the year, obviously, he won the Champions League. And the year after that, I was hoping to go on and win the league. So we've been tapping this young guy and he's young. He's young. And you know how my theory on players like that, they've only got time to more mature and get better. So, and obviously at the moment, because we haven't got another goalkeeper, it's going to have to be the special K in goal. So something like that is probably the best of both worlds. So that's probably the best team we could possibly start with going into the first game against Liverpool, because it's probably our strongest.
Yeah. So with that 11, what sort of an outcome were you expecting from that game? What were you thinking the scoreline is likely to be?
It's not going to be a 0-0 like it was for the last two times we played Liverpool. There are going to be goals, not necessarily saying that we're going to get all of them or Liverpool get all of them, but it wouldn't be a surprise if it was like 2-2 after like 50 minutes, because we're finally going to have a couple of players that are new to the league. They're not going to be known by Liverpool defence, but also at the same time with Liverpool, they're going to have some speed. Núñez is going to shine more this season. He's going to want to prove more of a point. Obviously, they've got the likes of Gakpo. They've got the likes, so he's going to be now getting more used to the Premier League. He got McAllister, and then I can't pronounce his name. They got that, and you got him as well. You still got your generals in Salah, the last general left after Mane and Firmino departed. So it's going to be interesting because you've got two teams that are proving a point from last year that that's not the standard that we expect from either of our clubs. So it's going to be, I reckon it's going to be a firing counter coming out, just flinging shots from like God knows where, so quick. I'm expecting pace. I'm expecting like aggression. Especially with Sterling playing his former club again, that history is never going to die. It's going to be an exciting encounter. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a cheeky 3-2 for the Chelsea. 90th, 89th minute from Gallagher can be done. He tried scoring a few goals last year. I'll even take if they scored first and we scored 3. But a cheeky 3-2.
So you're saying probably like a 5-goal game, most likely with hopefully Chelsea win.
It's going to be a thriller. It's going to be high intense game because both managers are good at a high intense game. So I'll be disappointed if it came up with a drab stinker 0-0. I'm looking at a scorer, a multi-scorer.
I think there'll be goals in it. I think it could end up being a draw. It may even have the same feel of the game you played against Tottenham start of the previous season.
That was great, yeah.
When we had the handshake gate with Conte and Tuchel, you just didn't want to say goodbye to him.
No.
You look at me in the eye when you shake my hand. So it could have that level of drama without the handshake issues, because I don't think Pochettino and Klopp would get into it that way. But I think for Pochettino, he would want to re-establish himself as being back in the league.
Yeah,
he would want to make a statement.
Redemption.
Same for Jurgen Klopp. He will want everyone to know that, I'm not over yet. I'm not tired. I'm not finished. So I think there'll be goals in it. I think I'm going to go for a score draw. I think could be a 2-2 game. Could be a 1-1 game. It'll be an exciting game. I'm just curious to see what else Liverpool do with their kind of moves. If there's any more players they're looking to pick up and bring in. I think with McAllister, with Szoboszlai, those are two good deals they've done. I think there's still work to be done at the back in central defence. I think the possibility of bringing in a right back to alleviate Trent having to play there might be a thing they do. True. However, they could just do the inverted fullback system like everyone else does, and have Robertson play a bit deeper this season, tuck in more, and have Trent just advance into midfield and just do that. I mean, there's so many things they could do. Yeah. So it works. But we'll see what they end up with. It's kind of hard to project without knowing the final kind of signings, but at the same time, it's exciting to see what our teams will do. So that's what I'm expecting there. Your next game is away to West Ham. Now, West Ham, who are going to be cash rich with the money off the back of the Declan Rice signing. What are you expecting from that match against West Ham?
They're going to be smart they're going to spend a lot of money replacing that role, the hole that Declan Rice has left. We're going to win. I think we're going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a walkover, because this is something that they're probably going to be expecting, because this is going to give them a chance. When you lose a player like that, of that caliber, yes, he's still young, he's a captain, and when you lose a player that has an impact on the club in so many ways, it's almost, I kind of see it as an acceptance sort of thing. I think a lot of players know, the managers know, the fans know. So it's how they kind of distribute that money to the areas that they need is going to be really, really interesting. So maybe possibly another backup goalkeeper to Fabianski, because he can't do it by himself. I know they got Areola, but he can't. He's more of a cup keeper rather than a league keeper. Maybe some more assurances up front. I mean, I forgot they had Danny Ings for a moment. I actually forgot until
Can't forget about him.
I can't. It's hard to forget, but it's just he barely starts.
He's a smart striker, Danny Ings. He's been collecting claret and blue shirts. He's been at Burnley, he's been at Aston Villa, now he's at West Ham, so he knows what he's doing.
He's starting a bit of a thing. So fair enough. I mean, maybe something in there. There's only other players that we can monitor apart from
Mikel Antonio up front. Yeah. Midfield wise, I mean, I know they're looking at potentially getting Scott McTominay. There's a couple of targets that they've missed. They might be on the verge of missing out on because they haven't got the money to put any concrete bids in and complete the signings right now. Well, not until. So yeah,
I did see something about Calvin Phillips going there to fill the hole. And this was actually months ago.
Wasn't that talk about him being included in the deal for Declan Rice if he went to Man City?
I think
that's what I heard about.
This was before the Champions. Possibly this was before the Champions League final. Okay. I think this was before you were tapping him, because for a long time we were tapping on him. But I know he's
Declan Rice.
Yeah,
we've been talking to him since January though.
Yeah, so he's been on the radar for a while, but I know they want to fill up that hole. Whether it's going to be Calvin Phillips, I do not know. But Calvin Phillips isn't playing anymore. He's just not playing when he's at Man City, so it wouldn't be a bad option for him to go to West Ham and actually start for once. I do think we're going to win 2-0. Okay. Nice little 2-0. Happy with that. So.
It's West Ham. I think off the back of them having the high of the Europa Conference League, obviously they've lost their captain. I actually think they're going to beat you at home. I'm going to say Jared Bowen will score the first goal of the game. I think they'll beat you 2-1 at home. I just think they'll have that bounce of, we've actually won a European trophy. We're a bit, because they're making a lot of noise online about they're a big team now, whatever. It's like, I'm really happy for the success they've had. But please, there is levels to this conversation. You guys, you're in the school now, but you're not on the 6th floor. Like you're in the school. You can see the stairway to the 6th floor. You're comfortably on the ground floor, and you can talk. And you've been up to the 1st floor. That's fine. They've showed you the lift to get up to floors 2 and above, but you're not allowed up there yet. So let's just respect the levels, please.
You ain't prefects. Let's say it that way.
You're not prefects.
You're not
but,
prefects.
But you are the transfer student that everyone likes and admired. But if you push your luck, you won't be the one everyone likes anymore. That's how I see it.
Reminded of your place.
Yeah. Like, just remember, just calm down. You guys doing well, but calm down.
Plus, they're going to need more players going into the Europa League because I don't think they want to make the same mistake as they did before when they got to the semi-finals. I think a lack of a squad will be a real bugbear, especially knowing full well they kind of really struggled in the Premier League.
And I remember that weekend because we had them. This is when the season we were in the chase for the Champions League places. We had West Ham. They had Arsenal. I forget the other team they had, but it was sandwiched in between the Europa League fixtures. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand why David Moyes didn't just rest key players. He started his strongest team in Europe. They struggled in the first leg. The league game, they struggled. Arsenal won, not very convincingly. We beat them. I think it was away from home we played them. And then the second leg, they needed to get the goals to win. They just didn't have anything left in the legs. It was a shame to watch. And I just thought that was a mistake from Moyes not to rotate then. So yeah, they've got experience, but they'll learn from it. Next up, you have Luton at home. It's your third game of the season. Comfortable 3-0. Oh, 3 points, I should say. Maybe 3-0, but comfortable 3 points.
It'll be 3-0. I think it's going to be... They're going to give it a go. This one of their first big ones of the league, going into a stadium that's used to... a culture that's used to winning. Because they're as far as stratospheres go from one side to the next, they're so different. So different. And they're going to be that kind of fan. They're going to give it their all. They're going to give our players a hard... The fans will give our players a really, really hard time. But I also think that they're going to be reminded of, now that the fact that they're here, it's staying here, but it's a trick. And in your third game, it's going to be really hard.
It is at the Bridge. So I don't know how big of an impact their fans will have.
Right in a little corner. Because they're used to being properly there with the players. And they've got the smallest stadium in the league. So they're going to bring that kind of intensity with them, or they can just carry in somewhere. Because we're like a 40 odd thousand seats.
Yeah.
I think they're barely 10,000. But I think they're gonna come by and they're gonna have some fun. But I think ultimately they're gonna probably expect us to win. So I'm going with a nice 3-0 win.
I think the problem would be if they got the first goal.
Yeah.
And they managed to silence Stamford. Because Stamford Bridge is not the loudest stadium in the world.
Not like it used to be.
Your fans are very reactionary to what's happening on the pitch. Like, if things aren't going well, your fans are not quick to rouse the players. Especially if, for example, let's play the game out for a bit. Enzo's dropped a couple of balls over to Mudryk and he's miscontrolled it a couple of times. Your fans will be quite quick to be like, come on, mate, we spent all this money, you need to be doing better. The support, there'll be some cheering him to come on, man, you can still do it. But there'll be a good number that will be getting on his back for not controlling the ball. So I think if Luton get the first goal in that game, I think it will be, you might fight back to win, but I think it will be a very, very, very tough game if they score first. But I still think you'd beat them.
That's a mistake we made last year. I think pretty much every time the other team scored first, we didn't win.
Didn't come back.
But it also depends on how the manager, how Poch is going to be there to kind of get the fans behind the players, because that's something that the other, especially like to Potter and Frank, failed to do.
But you know what? The other key thing with that is going to be, it's the relationship that the owners have now with the match day squad, because we know in the back end of last season we found out that Todd Bowley and Igali, I think his name is, they would go into the dressing room after every game and sometimes before every game talking to the players. I think that needs to be cut out.
That needs to stop.
Because that could create this impact, this continuous feeling of, everything we do, it's almost like, here they come again, I'm probably going to get replaced next week.
Yeah.
And as a player, you don't want to feel like, I might not have a job or I might be getting replaced. So I think that could be quite problematic. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think the first goal could settle it, could decide how the game goes, but I do think you'll pull off 3 points there. Then you have Nottingham Forest, who also play you at home. And I think that game, I think you will... it's a
second season syndrome as well for them.
It is, but also... We're all thinking best case scenario that things go really well and that the players gel and everything. I think that might be a draw.
This is game number 4.
This is game number 4. out of 5. I think you might draw 2-2 with Forest at home.
At the City Ground or at Stamford
It's
Bridge?
at Stamford Bridge.
It's at Stamford Bridge.
You might draw
Well, we've
2-2.
already drawn. We drew them last. Did we draw them? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did draw twice. We drew them.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen just because second season syndrome is going to kick in, and they did really well for a bit, but towards the end they kind of rode their luck just a touch. But I think especially with Southampton, they were gone from like ages ago. But I don't know. It kind of depends on what players they get, how well the promoted teams get, and the teams around them. Say like the Brightons, the Villa, not so much Newcastle, but the Brightons and the Villas with the small squads they have, they're constantly their best players, especially in Brighton's case, their best players being pinched from like every other club. You know, obviously McAllister's gone to Liverpool, Caicedo's linked with Chelsea and other clubs very heavily. And how they replace them. I'm not saying they're going to be in the relegation zone anywhere near, but seeing a team like that be weak, seeing a team like Villa and seeing a team like Brighton weak, that would be a prime place for, say, like a Forest to look and be like, well, they're getting a bit weaker. Let's establish ourselves more in the bottom half of the table, or better, Stephen, the top half of the table. If Forest got like a 12th for the season, that'd be seen as like progression from the last year they got promoted.
If Forest finished 12th this coming season, I would be really, 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 really happy for them, to be fair. That would be an incredible outcome for them.
Also, no, if he keeps his job, if Cooper keeps his job and has managed to properly strengthen and maybe lose some more of the championship players that they had, because they've got some good players that you like. Was it Brennan Johnson? He was good. Walker Peters, was it Walker Peters? Or is he Southampton?
He's at Southampton.
Hang on, who is it they had? There's someone there that was another player that was really good.
They have Morgan Gibbs-White.
That's one, yeah.
Who won with England at Under-21's championship this summer. A player that I admire very high, and one I'm saying within the next 2 to 3 years, I will not be surprised if like a top 6, maybe even a top 8. But I think he's got qualities to make it out of top 6 team.
Didn't concede either.
So yeah,
didn't concede a single goal during the whole tournament. So that's something. But if they can add to that with, I think, more established Premier League players, so I'm kind of surprised like a lot of these players that went to Saudi wouldn't consider a club like Forest where they can show off more of the experience to then go off to Saudi the next year or something. But I think it depends on how they strengthen. So I'm still going to go ahead and say a win. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I could say I'll go over 2-1, 3-1. If we score first.
Well, you know what's really interesting, because they haven't really made any concrete signings so far. Chris Wood has been signed, obviously because he was on loan, but that's been made permanent. But beyond that, it's just been players returning on loan. They are linked to Callum Hudson-Odoi. Tentative rumour, but it's links there.
A good little, was that for a loan or buy?
I think that's for a buy, but I think that would be a great move for him. I think that's a if I was him, and you're not thinking about going to Saudi Arabia and you're not thinking of other teams like higher up the table, I think going to Nottingham Forest, that's a good platform to establish yourself.
Yeah, still got years to...
Because you are going to start a lot. If you perform really well, you might get that next move back up the table to another team. So I think that's a good spot, good place to be.
Interesting.
So your 5th game in this run is away at Bournemouth.
Lovely ground. This will be... so far, not including Liverpool, one of Poch's most difficult games because of the history we have there with Bournemouth and with a proper bogey ground. Well, let's be real. Last year, every ground was a bogey ground, even our own. So this is going to be very interesting. It's going to depend on, and I mean, I'm not even joking when I say this, it depends on what time of day the game's on, because that can play. I remember once we played during the week and we were 3-0 down at home, away to Bournemouth being away.
Well, you're playing them on Sunday 17th of September.
So it could be lunchtime or it could be the last game of the thing. I could possibly see
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, so it's the first game of the evening. This could be the banana skin. This could really be the banana skin. Oh. See, this is the one, from history alone, I could see being a draw. Most likely being a draw. I'm talking either we score first and we do what we did last year and sit. They come back. Dominic Solanke does something stupid. Or it goes the other way where they score first, we're on top, but we just can't find our way through goal. And then we score like very late on, maybe, I don't know, a late Raheem Sterling shot or something. This, so far, I think is the first banana skin that he's got to be very wary of.
I'm going to say you're going to beat them. I mean, you're going to beat them 2-0. I think that this is a game which, like you said, is potential banana skin, but this needs to be the statement match where, as a team, You show that as much as last season, you were well off the standards that you would like to have as a club, and what all of us expect from Chelsea. That Chelsea are back, and you're a team to kind of watch out with one eye. Like you're not at the very very top of the league in terms of like the teams I expect to be in that like highly placed competing for the title. You're not there, but you're like quietly creeping along the team that everyone's kind of ignoring, but you're close enough. You're like
We're there.
within 4, 5, maybe even 6 points off being in that conversation, but you're just there. And everyone's like, is that Chelsea? Okay. Thought we'd be doing worse, but they're doing okay. That's where I back you to be. Next, after that, you have a tricky tie at home against Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a team that I'm expecting to be in and around the conversations for the top 5/top 4 this coming season.
Big game. Made some good moves. Had a terrific end to the back end of the season.
Yeah, they've announced Pau Torres as well in central midfielder coming in. So that's a good player.
Very good.
Whether he adapts to the league fast enough, we don't know, but it's a very good player.
You've got Tillemans on the free.
Yeah.
Player I very much admire. Along with the quality they already have. They've shifted the likes of Ashley Young, which shows their intentions of we want more from this season. We got, Europa. Watson's sick for this season. Who knows? Back in Europe. It's another tough one. We're at home, aren't we?
You are at home, at the Bridge.
This is either going to be an entertaining draw or a disappointing win for us. Where we're going to have to be on the back foot for most of the time. Because I think Unai Emery is just going to want that coming to Stamford Bridge. He doesn't. I don't think he's ever actually wanted Stamford Bridge because I think Villa beat us last year. Villa did beat us. They did beat us. Yes, they did. And I think he's want to taste that again. But it's going to be an entertaining draw or a disappointing win. Which sounds strange, but yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to beat you.
You're going to beat us?
I think Villa are going to beat you. I think they're going to beat you either 1-0 or 2-1 in that they go 2-0 up and then you pull one goal back. I just think they're a potential force to be working with this coming season. But also I think the way how Unai Emery studies teams, he would put together a game plan which could cause you a lot of problems. And I don't know if your team has it's not about maturity. I don't know if you would have the cohesiveness at that point in the season to overcome what they could throw at you. Now, again, this preseason might change all that, and the games you play, I'm going to look at quite a lot of your matches to see how things are shaping up, what kind of positions players take up, and how they look intensity-wise. But I think that could be the game where people start to wobble a bit on the Pochettino era. So you would have had a good game in the previous game against Bournemouth. Everyone's happy, and then this game kind of brings it back down to earth again. And then you go off to your West London rivals Fulham at Craven Cottage. Monday night football, 8:00 kickoff. What are we expecting there?
Win. I'm not having Willian have one over on us. I'm not having Willian, and especially as he run rings around us at Craven Cottage, because he was really good that game, which I hate to admit.
That's true.
We're really, and it was one of the frustrating games because I think one of the best teams in West London was them or Brentford and then us somehow. What are so frustrating.
Are you sure you went behind Millwall?
Huh?
Are you sure you went behind Millwall?
Let's not go crazy now. Let's not go crazy now. Listen,
I'm playing.
Listen, it's bad enough with the joke of West London. I mean, even QPR might have a case of laughing at us. Genuinely, a lot of QPR fans were discussing with them because I work there sometimes. It's like, whose team is worse? And you're not taking the honour away from me. We're both terrible. We're both terrible. They couldn't even banter me at their games, yeah, because I just said, you're bad. I was like, you ain't seen nothing yet. You spent 50p, we spent 50 bill.
You're the epitome of hold my beer on bad decisions and badness. But yeah, I mean, I think you'll get that win. There's been talk that Mitrovic is a target for one of the Saudi Arabian clubs, and he is open to going over there. And if they were to lose him, I think they would probably struggle to replace.
Isn't he still on the ban? No, he's not on the ban.
His ban's over. Yeah, his ban's over for that refereeing incident. So yeah, that could be a big move if Mitrovic did make that move over there, and then I think that would help your case. Definitely, but I do think you'll beat them away from home. I think, again, it'll be the perfect bounce back from the Aston Villa defeat. You'll come back strong. Pochettino will make a statement. He'll change. I think he'll change. If Villa beat you into the Fulham game, I think he'll make wholesale changes in your team. I think probably 6 changes in your team, and that will be enough to spark a reaction. So that's what I expect there. And then we have the game which could be really, really, really tricky before the game that I'm really looking forward to. Burnley away. Vincent Company inviting you guys up to Turf Moor. 3 o'clock on a Saturday. Up at Burnley. So it shouldn't be wet it shouldn't be wet yet, but it might be very windy.
September, yeah?
This is in October.
October
7th.
The sun is setting earlier and earlier by the day. If this was next month, I would be thinking a bit different. I think this is going to be a hard-fought 2-0
win.
Hard-fought 2-0 win. They're going to give us a game. He will give us a game because this is not the Burnley that we last played when they were relegated. This is a very different looking Burnley. This is an exciting Burnley.
Yeah.
Which is something that...
It's weird to say, isn't it?
Weird to say. Because they were playing some great stuff in the Championship. Really great stuff. They didn't lose at home for ages. Beaten by QPR, funny enough. But no... It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be tough. They've already made signings already. They've shifted a lot. They're making their statement. They're making a statement clear because they're not taking over for players that have gotten there because they've got to realise that we've got to move on. And if we're going to stay in this league and make more of a statement, make more of a serious statement here, and potentially push higher up the table and not be at that first risk of being relegated and having people bet us to be relegated first, we need to move on to the players that thanks for getting us here, but for the both of us, we've got to move on to get something better. So this will be hard fought 2-0. Unless it rains.
So the rains will change it if
2-1 if it rains to us.
2-1 to you if
it
game.
rains. I think they'll scare, and I think they might score first.
Well, so far they've made 4 transfers in. They've got Jordan Bayer in from Borussia Mönchengladbach, centre back. They've also got Dara Rocher in from West Brom, another centre back. They've brought in Lawrence Vigru from a free transfer, I think from Leyton Orient, if that's the correct badge. And then lastly, they've brought in Michael Obafemi, who was, I think he was at Southampton previously, but he's a promising young player. They got him from Swansea this coming season, so that's quite interesting. The moves they've made, I actually think they are going to surprise you, and I think they are going to win. I think they're going to win. Burnley are not the Burnley we've known in the past. And the way how Burnley played last season, at home in particular, they were very, very dominant. I think Burnley will beat you. I think they will beat you, if not 1-0, it might be a 3-1. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those results. Everyone's going to sit back and be like, what's just happened here? I think that will be the one. And then we have the derby, the London derby, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge versus Arsenal. You'll be beaten at home. Sorry to say it. Again, I think that'll be
that was quick.
2-0 Arsenal win.
This is probably the third one because by now Rice will be there, established in the team.
Yeah, this is in October 21st.
So we probably lean. Would your first Champions League game already go?
Yeah, first set of Champions League pictures would have been played by then.
It's gonna be. We're gonna park the bus because we're just gonna have to. But it's going to be a draw, or you're going to nick. I hate if Havertz will score, but I don't think he will. I think Jesus will do what he does. He'll score again. He likes scoring at the bridge. Well, actually, last year, you'll get centre-back Gabriel scored. Someone called Gabriel scored. Wait, no, Martinelli.
Big Gabby,
Martinelli and Jesus have all scored at Stamford Bridge, respective clubs. One of them will score. And there'll be VAR in 0-0.
I mean, I wasn't even thinking about Kai Havertz scoring and his return to Stamford Bridge, but you know what? It's kind of set that way narrative-wise for him to get the goal to start the party going.
We're going to give him...
The question is, does he celebrate? That's the real question. Not does he score, does he celebrate? I don't know if he would. I don't know.
Once, but we're going to have his eye on him. Scrutiny on a whole new level.
I mean, it could be similar to when we played you at the Emirates and Odegaard scored a screamer. I just think the way how Arsenal will use Havertz this coming season, the positions he's likely to take up, the positions that Xhaka got last season and the goals Xhaka didn't get from those same positions, I think if Havertz gets in those same areas, I think he'll score against you. Still saying a 2-0 win. It could be more, but I think you'll lose that game to Arsenal and I think Havertz will score. Just to really kind of round off the game. It's like as if it couldn't get any worse. You'll get Havertz to score against you.
Gallagher on him. Watch him. I'll put Fafana on him. Yeah, there you go.
If you put Fofana on him, he might get a hat trick. Anyway, to round off the Chelsea fixtures, you are back at home again against Brentford. This is an Ivan Toney less Brentford. They do have Sharda, who I expect will start most of these games up front. There's been talk that the Tottenham, some of their directors want Ivan Toney and want the club to look at purchasing him in. I don't know if it's in now or for January, but either way, looking at bringing him in. So that could be interesting to see if anything happens with that. But what are you expecting from your boys?
Well, this is where I think the bounce back could be very important. You know, if the result doesn't go against Arsenal, which is a 50-50 chance, this will be the bounce back. Nice 3-0, 3-1.
You want against
They got no Ivan Toney, and I know their replacement's coming in, but Ivan Toney is the talisman, and for the longest time where he's been touted to leave Brentford and go into bigger things. Obviously not like likes of Newcastle, his old club, but maybe somewhere he can, if he wants to have that England spot to deputise for when Kane isn't playing, you know, he's one of the next best options that we have. So I think this is where the bounce back comes. Nice round 10, we're going to bounce back. 3-1.
3-1 Chelsea win. I think it will be a 2-1 tight win, late winning goal by Mudryk. The goal that will make Chelsea fans realise what we've signed. I think he's going to score an amazing goal. And he's going to be an amazing run. He's going to take it all the way and get the goal to win that game for you guys. So that's it for Chelsea's fixtures for now to start off the season. I think that's not a bad run of games and run of results. Just looking at those games in general, let's say the worst case scenario happens and you don't get off to a really good start, like your first 3 games, you don't pick up maximum points in any of them. Which match do you think will be the make or break match for the perception of Poch? Not to say that they would let him go after like a poor 10-game run, because I don't think you will. But what match would you say is the game where if this game doesn't go well after having a poor start, that's when it really might be tough for Poch to turn things around?
What, after the first 10 or during the 10?
Including the first 10. So of these matches, which one do you think, if things don't go well, which game do you think is going to be the one which is going to be like, this could be the make or break game for us?
I'm not going to say Arsenal, that's too much of a big ask. Yeah. I know the history is there with Spurs and it's just going to be too much. The event will take over. I probably think the game where it's going to be like, you know, turning where it's going to be, I think I'm going to stick with the game after with the Brentford, because I think most of the harder games are going to be in that bracket right there. Burnley, like you said, could be tricky. Forest could be tricky. West Ham coming off their Europa League, Conference League victory could be tricky. The one where there's, even Fulham could be tricky because I think in history we didn't beat them once last year. So I think Brentford's going to be the one just because I think it's one of the more winnable, of all the games, it's one of the more winnable ones in that group. Where after a nice perfect round 10, which I think most or every manager should be given, is like, this is the one. They got no talisman striker. You know, they're probably going to want to sell him after he's come back anyway to get that money and get him off their books. This is the one. I think Brentford is going to be the one where if it's all going a bit pear-shaped, that they're going to be keeping an eye on and be like, get them while they're weak.
The game that I'm going to say is actually Aston Villa. And it's for the main reason why is because when I think about how the season's panned out and play places where teams finish in the table, Aston Villa are the team that you're thinking, if we're going to start the resurgence and we're not necessarily going to jump straight back into the top 4, their spot in Europe is what we're taking next year. So for me, the Villa game is the one. Even though I'm saying you're going to lose it, but that's the game where if I'm the manager, I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, this is the one where we don't just want to beat them. We want to send a statement to the league to say Chelsea are back. I mean, Liverpool game at the start of the season, I think that even that as the first game in,
that's a statement.
That might even be the one where if you go into that and you wallop them, like let's say you slap Liverpool 4-1. Don't see it happening, but let's say you do, because it's not impossible. You have the players that can score those goals, not all for Chelsea, but they have done it in their careers. If you did that, that to me would be like, oh, Chelsea. Okay. All right, Chelsea. Go on with your bad stuff. Like, you know, everyone looks at you differently, you know, especially if Jackson gets a goal in his debut, you get Mudryk gets a goal, Sterling gets 2, that's already 4. That's job done. You know, that would be sweet for everyone. Or even Nkunku could take one of Sterling's goals and then whatever. But so that would be that. Let's move over to Arsenal. We start off the season on a Saturday at Nottingham Forest at home. And it's on TNT Sports, which is the new BT Sports' name, rebrand, all that good stuff. New name, same old, well, we'll see. I think it'll be an Arsenal win. I think Arsenal will beat them 3-1 victory. Start of the season, I think nice and comfy. What do you see? 4-0. Even better. I'll take that.
Round.
I'll take
Nice
that.
round number.
We just need to get a strong start. Then we head across to Crystal Palace away. I think last season we showed really good resilience against them. They kept on Roy Hodgson, which I thought was interesting, but makes sense for continuity's sake. Might be a bit of a strange one, you think of the grand scheme of things. But I think we'll win that game as well. I think that one will be maybe a 3-1 away win. Maybe a 3-0, because we did beat them at home, away from home.
You don't normally like playing them.
No, but we kind of showed some new levels to our system, so I think that'll be another win. And then we head across we have Fulham at home the following week. Again, I'm expecting another 3 points there.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal are going to have a very strong start to the season, so that's three wins on the bounce.
Beat Fulham, beat Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace, they might score first, but I think you'll get the 3. I think Fulham, at home or away?
Fulham at home.
Fulham at home. They nearly got you last year.
They did. They frustrated us last season.
They frustrated though, but I still think you'll win.
Yeah, I think it might not be as frustrating this time around, but I think we'll pull it off. And then we have Manchester United at home, our first big test of the season. And I'm going to say it now, we're going to thrash you lot 4-0. No, that's not true. Rashford will get one, like he did last year. So 4-1 against Manchester United at home in September.
Mason Mount's going to have a disappointing first half like he did today.
Not bitter here. No bitterness detected. Not bitter,
just facts.
Just straight facts. And then we head up to Everton, where Sean Dyche will probably frustrate the life out of us, and we might have to battle away to a really tight 1-0 away win.
I think 1-1.
And I'll take it.
I think we'll talk about it in a bit, but I think this could be the one where they finally bounce back in the season.
Okay.
Could be a 1-1.
Well, they beat us last year at home.
They did, yep.
Which was just the most stupidest throwaway of anyway. But I think this season we'll have a better answer to that. And then we head over to our derby against tiny Tottenham Hotspurs at the Emirates. A 2:00 Sunday kickoff.
4-0.
4-0 Arsenal. Yeah, I think we're going to beat them. I think it'll be a nice scoreline. And I'm going to say that this is a game where Havertz will fully announce himself to the Arsenal crowd.
Just about to say that.
I think he'll get a brace to start the tradition of scoring against Tottenham. And then I think Jesus will get one as well. And
Declan Rice header.
Declan Rice could also take one there as well.
Arteta score.
And I think one of our centre-backs will score, either Saliba or Gabriel.
Arteta score, Edu score, T-Lady score.
Don't know about all that.
Gunnosaurus score.
Gunnosaurus will celebrate, but I don't know if he will score. And then we play Bournemouth away on the 30th, 3:00 kickoff. I think that'll be another.
They can be tricky when they want.
They can
prove to both of us.
They
can be tricky.
But I think that'll be a 2-0 Arsenal win. And then comes the game which everyone is waiting for, especially after last season, at the Emirates, Arsenal-Man City.
Ooh, first 10 games.
First 10 games, Arsenal-Man City. That's game number 8.
Ooh.
So I don't know which way to call it, because you have head versus heart. I would have hoped we've learnt our lessons from last year, but the way we performed against them away from home was just disgraceful. At home, it was poor defensive play by Tomiyasu who gave them the first goal. De Bruyne, that kid. I think I'll say this. If Arsenal beat Man City at home, Arsenal win the league. If Arsenal draw to Man City at home, Arsenal win the league. And if Arsenal lose to Man City at home, Arsenal do not win the league.
And the evil carries on.
I think it's that important of a game. Not from a purely points perspective. I think psychologically the players have to get over the fact that Man City are Man City. They're just a team from Manchester that 20 years ago were nothing. Just a cup team with a glorious history from the 60s and 40s and 50s.
Richard Dunn used to play for them.
Richard Dunn.
And Stephen Ireland. And
Sean the Goat Goater.
David James.
David James. They had retirement Anelka.
They did.
Let's be honest, they didn't even have him in his prime.
They had retirement. No.
They had retirement Dave Seaman. Retirement
What's
Peter
his name?
Schmeichel.
Yeah, Schmeichel.
I can keep going on and on at retirement Frank Lampard.
True, and he scored against us.
And he scored against you.
Rude.
This is they're just that's
Robbie
what
Fowler
they were.
retired. Was Robbie Fowler there?
Retired. Fowler was there too. That's what they were. They were just the club you go to get money before you finish. Now they're the club that wins stuff, but they need to remember where they came from and stay there.
And they only had that stadium because of the Commonwealth Games.
That's it.
It's not even their stadium.
It's not theirs. It's the government's. So yeah, I think that game will be very seismic. I think it will probably end up being a score draw, but I would hope that Arsenal can just surprise everyone and just get a comfortable 2-0 win. But I think it'll be a score draw, like a 2-2.
I reckon, I'm going to say this because it's one of the ones I'm not sure about. It's going to be 2-2 up until 90 minutes.
And then it will change.
Then it will change. Yeah. I don't know.
Which way? Yeah.
I can't tell you because I don't think they're going to be playing the same Arsenal that they played last year. I think you were your home game when you played them at home. Because I remember coming back from Edinburgh. I think because it was the same time as the Chelsea Dortmund game. Yeah. I think the event was getting to them because this was a game where a lot of people were being like, if they can't do this, they're not going to do it. And then you kept it on for so long, going on and on and on.
Because it was 1-0 then 1-1. We pulled them back, and then we just sort of capitulated.
And then you kept the pace with them and were ahead of them all the way up until at least April, May, when you played them again, and then it all went wrong. So for the longest time, everyone was going to say, "Oh, after World Cup, oh, when you play City, oh this, oh that." You kept it going up until that point. So I think possibly having the game a little bit earlier in the season will allow you to break it off because there's no massive break in the World Cup coming up this year. So it's going to make it a little bit more streamlined. You just don't know, but I just think it's going to be a score draw up until that point.
And it's the last game before the international break as well in October. So I think it will be good to make a statement to say, look, we meant business. Last year we fell short. This season we're coming for everything. So I think
it's a tough one to call. I can't.
But it's a super important game. I think definitely getting as close to 3 points in that match is going to be vital. And then, like I said, we play you at the bridge and we
get you when you're tired. I think we'll get you when you're tired, when you're knackered after City and Champions League.
You think you're going to beat us in the 21st?
I still think it might be a hard fought draw, but that draw will feel like a win.
Yeah, I said before, we'll beat you there. And then the final game in Arsenal's run is against Sheffield United at home, October 28th.
You're at home.
We're at home.
You'll beat them when you're at home.
Yeah.
If it was away, I'd feel different.
Yeah, I think away it'll be trickier, but I think it will beat them. I think it will be. I'm going for a clean sheet. Go for a 3-0.
Yeah, I think it depends on having a goal.
Yeah.
Well, for Sheffield. Mind you, if you play them in return leg, it's between November and March. You probably will lose. That Sheffield, they don't play at Sheffield.
Don't. And then moving on to Luton Town, we'll quickly fly through their fixtures. It's quite interesting to see what they do this season. I'm actually quite excited to have a new team in the Premier League for once. And,
brand new.
You know, we did want Football Heritage to come back. We were rooting for Coventry City, to be honest.
Big time.
But for some poor penalty technique and, just unfortunate luck, they didn't make it. But we were hoping they would. But, we've now got someone new to look up to. They start off the season at Brighton away from home. So at the Amex. What are you expecting from them? So it's going to be a hard first game. Saturday,
tough game. New season, Europe. De Zerbi's going to have much more of a established hold on the league and understand it, and potentially, he's pulled in he's pulled in a good general in James Milner. He's going after that record from Gareth Barry. I can feel it. I do generally think he's going to have so much to give to that very young team. They're going to pull in, I think they're going to do some more business, pull in all these. And they're going to be the new Leicester. Okay. They're going to be the new Leicester. I'm not saying they're going to be winning the league or anything like that, or necessarily challenging for trophies, but they're going to do what is, I think, more important, and it's establishing that Premier League status and going into Europe. They're going to be in for a very rude awakening, Luton, because Brighton aren't a big team, but they're a competitive team. So this is probably going to be their first taste of defeat. It's going to be a 2-0 to Brighton, I think. If it was home, I'll feel different.
Yeah, I think Brighton will beat them as well. And then they move over to their first home games against Burnley. So it's a championship rerun. How are you seeing that one go?
Old rivalry. I can't remember how their games went in the championship going ahead to this promotion. But I'll say this. If the game, so they're at home.
They're at home. So Burnley beat Luton Town 1-0. in February in the Championship last season.
I reckon Luton could be out for revenge. New teams, new league. This probably might be the one they show. It wouldn't be surprising me if it was a sellout from last year. So this could be a case of them getting their revenge, maybe a 1-0, 1-1, 2.
Well, so the last two fixtures were Burnley beat them when Luton were at home 1-0. But Luton had to play a sent off. And then the corresponding fixture, so earlier in the season, Burnley-Luton drew 1-1 at Turf Moor, Burnley's ground. So
could get the revenge.
Could
get the revenge. Small ground. They're going to be used to that kind of intent. They're going to be used to that kind of crowd feel. Small. Both grounds are not that big, so this could be Luton's revenge.
And we mentioned the Chelsea game already. So then they go on after playing you. They got West Ham at home. I know. West Ham it would be 1st September, so Europa League wouldn't have started yet. Because I don't think West Ham have to qualify, do they?
No, because they won the conference.
So they go straight into the group. So there's no Europa League yet, but West Ham, they play them.
Without Declan Rice. Ooh.
I think West Ham should win.
They should win, but whether they will win.
And I'm going to say West Ham will win.
Will win.
Yeah, they'll beat them. I think it will be like a 3-0 welcome to the Premier League. There's levels to this.
True that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a 2-1.
Yeah. Then they play Fulham away.
This is hard, man.
It is really hard.
This is hard.
Because you're thinking like in these opening 10 games, you're thinking, where are they going to actually start picking up their points? Where do those wins come? And so this is now game 5 in the season, Fulham away in September. With Fulham, it's really weird because they are a very streaky club in that they'll go on a good run of games and they'll get wins and they'll beat teams you don't expect. And they'll lose one, and they'll lose a game you don't expect them to lose, and then they kind of either wobble or they pick it back up again. So I think that could be Luton's first win of the season.
That's kind of around the time then when they play us.
Yeah. And I said that they were going to draw against you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this might be one you don't expect them to.
So I think they'll beat Fulham away from home. I think it'll be like a 2-1. A very tight 2-1. Like they'll get that second goal in like the 70th minute, and then they'll just sit back for 20 and just soak up pressure. Almost score a third, and then just hold the ball in the corner.
Or or go for a second and then Fulham get one. Either way.
Yeah. I think it'll be a 2-1 win. And
so,
then
I agree with that one. Yeah,
2-1. Then they have Wolves visiting them at home.
Oh wait, no, they've lost their best player in Neves.
Yeah,
unless they play Football Manager again and replace him with another Portuguese wonder signing.
They always do.
It's so weird because Wolves are another one. They're just kind of after a really kind of explosive start to the Premier League, they've kind of faded back a little bit, which is kind of upsetting because I do kind of like them a little bit because I like beating them. Home or away?
They are at home to Wolves.
This is one I think is going to be, I could very easily see this being a ball draw. Boring, hard, 0-0.
Wow.
Because I can't, with both teams,
it's hard to call
it's so tricky. So tricky.
I'll say it'll be a score draw. I think Wolves will get a goal and I think Luton will peg them back and will push for the winner and then just not have enough time or quality to get it. Then they travel up to Merseyside to play Everton.
Everton need to win.
Everton need the win.
Need to win. Any game where Everton where they have the advantage, I'm not going to say that they... No, I'm saying they need to win because it was losing games like this that kind of put them in the position where they were the last two or three seasons. So Everton, I don't know what the score will be, but Everton just need to win. Need to win.
I think Luton beat them away. And I think that will be the game. This will be the match that is where it finally breaks for Everton.
Sean Dyche.
I don't necessarily think it will mean him getting fired, but I think that will be the game where the bond, because the fans and their bond has already been quite fractured, and we're going to talk about Everton a bit more in a second, but I think that's the match where things are going to get really strained. And then Luton play Spurs next at home. Spurs win.
I'd love a Luton win, but it's not going to happen.
Oh, you'd love it. I thought you said another Luton win. I was like, wow. I mean, I know they're Tottenham, but they're not that bad.
Nah,
they're making lots of signings as well, which is quite interesting.
I got another free one. Got another one today.
Yeah, they brought in Manu Solomon, who was at Fulham last season. And they already did James Maddison. They are, potential links for them at Ivan Toney, which came out today, so that could be interesting. But yeah,
2-0, maybe even 3-0.
going for a Spurs win as well. Score's not relevant. It's 3 points for Tottenham. No one cares about that except for Tottenham fans. And then we go to Nottingham Forest as their final game in that 10-game run.
Oh, fiery! This could be a
Big game.
This could be a fiery one. Home or away for this one? Sorry.
They are away to Nottingham Forest.
Forest win. Maybe a 2-1.
No, they've got one more game actually. Yeah. So Forest Luton City, Forest win. Yeah, I think that could be a Forest win as well. And then their final fixture, which I didn't have up on there. What makes you think that Forest are going to be able to pull it off? I think it's just that just having that Premier League knowledge is going to be important.
No, so it could go one of the two ways. The teams can either figure out what they're doing, or they can establish themselves more. They can do possibly what Brentford did, because Brentford established themselves a little bit more in the Premier League but they improved on their position when they first got promoted. They didn't necessarily make any massive, big time marquee signings. Yeah. I'm not saying that's what Nottingham Forest need, and Nottingham Forest don't need to do that. They just need to strengthen in key areas, bring in players that are good to go, good to play. They don't have to necessarily be Premier League proven, but they want to have a want to play, like when they started the likes of Pontus Jansson from Leeds, someone who wanted to play, and at one point himself was actually in promotion hunt for himself with Leeds a few years ago. So if Nottingham Forest were to pinch, the odd player here or there, like you say, with a point to prove, like someone like Hudson-Odoi, that's a good signing to go for, because he's fresh off a loan move in Germany. He's always had history with Chelsea. Good year in with Sarri. He's still young, and giving him responsibility at a team like Forest, where likely he's going to be one of the more experienced players who knows how to win. If you attract a few other players like that who have nothing you can't really go too wrong with players with a point to prove. That's how Leicester won the league. That's true. That's how Brighton were able to do what they're doing over these years, establish themselves more and more and more. And that's what Brentford done. Tony had a point to prove. That's what they did. And I think what Forest need to look at that sort of thing if they're to kind of bring themselves back up to, I think, a 13th or a 12th to get them to. That's why I think that a team with a point to prove is going to be too much for a team finding its feet. That's why I think Forest will win.
Right. And then their last game is Aston Villa away. Yeah, same. Sheffield United, they start off the season at Crystal Palace. Saturday game, 3:00. I go for a Palace win. South London stand up.
Hodgson, wise old owl.
Yeah, he'll just keep that ball rolling. And then they move up to Nottingham Forest away. Or down from Sheffield, I guess, to Nottingham Forest.
Way to the City ground. See, at this point, I don't know if City are going to have their signings sorted out just yet. So this might be the best time to play them. So maybe a Sheffield United draw.
Draw against Nottingham Forest. Okay. Yeah, I think take a draw. It's a good way to bounce back after the defeat to Crystal Palace. And then they play Man City.
Home or away?
Away. At home. Doesn't matter, does it?
Really matter,
it's the same outcome. Anyway, They are the Thanos of football. Dread it, run from it. It arrives all the same. And then they have Everton at home, which I said they would win.
Yeah.
Against Everton. Oh, no, I think they'll win. They'll beat Everton at home.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so Everton will lose that game. Then they go to Spurs away.
Spurs.
I don't want to say it, but I agree with what Matthew said. I didn't say it. He said it, but I agree with what he said.
Sorry, I jinxed it.
And then they have Newcastle at home.
Ooh.
Which, with what Newcastle looking to do this season, that could be a very interesting game.
Monstrous.
I think they should lose. I actually think they will probably draw, and they'll surprise everyone by pulling off a draw. I think they're going to go 2-0 up.
Yeah.
And Newcastle will pull them back for 2-2.
This is going to be
and there'll be a disallowed goal in that game.
So you think there's going to be a drama?
It's going to be drama in that match.
Not so much with the players, but the fans, because neither side of fans will back down.
Yeah, drama in that game.
Properly proud fans. Yeah. Is it what time is that
4:30 on a Sunday. So last game on Sunday. That's what I mean. It's set for drama.
Oh,
set for drama.
Lovely Sunday roast with that one. Oh, that's gonna be beautiful. Mwah.
Looking forward to that one.
Yes.
Then we have West Ham. They have West Ham away at the London Stadium.
Oh, I think they're gonna be pooped out. I think they're gonna be knackered after that game. I think West Ham will get them. They're gonna give it their all at Newcastle. If that's the case, giving them all at Newcastle, squad very thin. It's gonna be tough. They're gonna I think West Ham will do a good 3-1 on them.
Yeah, I think West Ham will get the 3 points there, nice and easy. Then they go to Craven Cottage, play Fulham, 3 o'clock on the 7th of October. I think
0-0.
I know it's hard to call with Fulham.
You don't know what you get. You really don't. They are now the new. Who was that? What was the team before that you just didn't know what you were going to get? It used to be Everton, didn't it? Where it was like you just had no idea who.
Everton and Southampton.
Yeah, you just had no idea what to expect.
No consistency.
No, and that's
just
what Fulham
vibes.
are going to be for me. Yeah, just fun. We're not getting relegated, but we're going to be in that echelon of like the middle part of the table. So
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I think yeah. Maybe Sheffield United win 1-0. Surprising one.
Yeah.
Then they play Manchester United at home. That should be a Manchester United win. And I'm going to say a Manchester United win. I think Man United will beat them 4-0 as their statement of being in the title race. And I'm saying that with air quotes in my eyes.
Yeah.
Title race.
And then go back to square one the second
And then back to the usual routine from them.
Yeah, I can go with that, yeah.
And then we already covered the Arsenal game. So we've got Burnley as well to cover. I think they're a very interesting outfit. They start the season off on Friday Night Football against Man City, 8 o'clock kickoff. Are we expecting an upset? Will Company outdo the master?
At Turf Moor.
At Turf Moor. Or will the master just lay down the law? I'm going to say Burnley will draw against Man City, first game of the season.
I'm glad you said it because this reminds me of when Wolves first got promoted, and this is when Man City were on the ascendancy. I think they were already the league champions, and they were the champions of a championship, and they kind of collided together, and the result came out that no one else thought, and that was a draw. I think Wolves scored first. So, but you know what? City are not allergic to an odd game where
It's true.
they get a bit of a shock. Wolves beaten once at the Etihad, then Palace did, Leeds did. The first one could be the one where it's like, okay, this is a literal blip. Let's not do it again.
And I'm going to say Jack Grealish and Erling Haaland will both score in that game, but it will still end up being a draw. Which is saying a lot. I'm putting a lot of faith in you, Burnley. I mean, I was hoping for 3 points from you, and if they lose the game, it is what it is. But, that's what I kind of think it could be.
I'm not going to put past the 2-2 draw with them. Not past. And I wouldn't put past them scoring first. Yep. Both goals.
And then City come back.
Brock Lesnar does his thing. So
then we already mentioned the Luton game. They got Aston Villa after that.
Away?
At home.
Whatever happened, they're going to be knackered. They're going to be properly outdone by City. They can give them a run around.
No. So they have City first. They have Luton. Then they have Aston Villa.
Oh, City. Oh,
yeah.
So a bit of a break.
We've already discussed Luton, yeah.
It's a bit of a break in. Oh, yeah, a bit of break in between. They're more likely to lose here. Less at stake. I think they'll get a good result in the first two. Draw City, beat Luton. No, I said Luton. No, I said Luton to win because of revenge. Yeah. This could be another.
Then they'll bounce back against Villa.
Possibly, or it could be a draw.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Villa. Then they play Spurs at home. So Burnley are at home, Spurs are away.
No, we didn't do it. We didn't say this one, did we? This might be the one they lose. I said they might lose. I'm not saying the full words because ew.
Yeah, I'm leaning with what Matthew's saying, caveating it with I don't know what kind of Spurs we're going to get, but then again, Burnley are really good though.
They are really good.
No, I'm going to change it. I'm going to say Spurs will lose to Burnley away from home. Is what it is. And then they play Nottingham Forest away. Monday Night Football.
Fifth game,
Nottingham Forest.
Can't keep saying draw all the damn time. Makes me sound indecisive.
You can. I mean, it's got draw written all over it, doesn't it?
It does. I just don't see a definitive reason for them losing it. So yeah, I'm going to say draw.
Morgan gives White to score an absolute worldie of a goal. Calling that right now, but a draw most likely. And then they play Manchester United at home. Saturday Night Football, 8 o'clock. Big game.
Get the dominoes out. Ooh. Against Man United.
I'm going to say this. Weghorst will score against Manchester United, something he couldn't do for them, and Burnley will go on to win the game like 3-1. And it will be the match that shows Ten Hag that this squad is not as good as he hopes.
Yeah.
And there's still things to be addressed.
Mason Mount misses penalty.
Oh.
I'm not bitter.
Just facts. Go that far, but it's fine.
Just facts, remember, innit?
Keeper saves it or he drags it wide?
They're playing in Burnley, right?
Yeah.
He sends it to Blackburn.
All right. And then they play Newcastle after that at St James's Park.
I think this is gonna be the one where it's gonna be too much, and then they'll be gallant. They'll be gallant. So because I've seen what company can be like in the dressing room, so I know they're gonna give it their absolute all. They won't want to let him down, but I think this is gonna be the one.
I think it'll be a draw, personally. You think it'll win, Burnley?
Newcastle.
Newcastle win. I think it'll be a draw. We've already discussed the game they play against you. We'll move on. They have Brentford after the Chelsea game away from home. I think there'll be 3 points for Burnley.
Yeah.
I just think
Brentford could be challenging for the Premier League. It's right.
Well, Burnley.
Yeah.
Well, I think there'll be a surprise package in the table. I think they're going to be higher than people expect them to.
They have a good first few games,
and then it will kind of average out, like how we had, wasn't it Brighton leading the table last season? So I think it'll be something like that. And then they end their 10-game run ends against Bournemouth away from home. Win there. I think Bournemouth will surprise everybody and pull off a shock win. Yeah.
Wait, are they at Turf Moor or?
They are at they're at the Vitality Stadium.
Oh, okay. I'm still going for Burnley win.
I think they'll surprise everyone. And then the team which we felt like last season was the point of no return, that their charm has officially run out. That's Everton. Start the season at home against Fulham. I'm gonna just say this: they need to start the season strong, and that has to be a 3 points. I'm going to back them to win the game. I'm going to say Calvert-Lewin will score a hat-trick, and Everton fans are going to start believing for big things before it all comes crashing down. So I think they'll win that game 3-0. Dominic Calvert-Lewin hat-trick. Start the
season. Are they home or away?
They're at home against Fulham.
Opening statement, big game. Over a team that arguably they should be competing with in that mid-table sense. So I think they have to start with a win. Have to start with a win. Even if it's 1-0 and it's Iwobi. Just get that first one out of the way. But Calvert-Lewin hat-trick would be a massive. He was a top scorer one point couple years ago, wasn't he? He got the cape on his injury, but yeah.
He's got it in him, and he needs to fire for them to really do well. Unless they bring in more strikers. Neil Maupay is Neil Maupay. You get what you get from him. Like if you get 10 league goals, that's quite good for him. It's not good for anyone else, but it's good for him. And then they have Villa away next game of the season. Villa win, and thus begins the decline as far as I'm concerned.
I think someone said there was a fun fact. I think Everton and Villa are like the most played Premier League game in history.
That number might end
this
coming season, but yeah, I think they'll lose to Aston Villa away, and then they have Wolves at home. 3 points.
To Wolves or?
To Everton, sorry.
2 out of 3 wins?
Yeah. It's been a good start.
I agree with that, yeah.
And we've already discussed Sheffield United match. We've already discussed the Arsenal match. And this is where I say that's top 5 games gone. That's now where
the first 5.
That's the first 5. Rocky start. 2 wins, a draw, and 2 losses. Then they go over to Brentford away.
I think they're going at this point. They might be used to the fact that Tony's not coming back for so a while. It all depends on how their guy in front starts, and particularly how the other players stepped up, like Mbeumo, especially like him because he didn't get in a goal. I think he had a really impressive showing again in one game last year. I can't remember where.
Visa.
Yeah.
There's another striker they have.
Also lost David Raya, which is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
This could be the first. I'm not saying Brentford are going to be the whipping boys, but if there's an opportunity to get that first win, it's after a rocky 5 games. This could be the one. This could be the one. Especially if Tony's fit, they're going to probably need to make it.
Well, Tony won't be available anyway.
No, not Tony. Sorry,
you mean Calvert-Lewin?
Calvert-Lewin, yeah. Calvert-Lewin's fit.
Yeah, that'll be important. I think Everton could do a job there. I'm going to go for I'm going to say that first win back off the bounce. Then they play Luton at home, a game I said they were going to lose, and we had discussed that one. Then they have Bournemouth come to town, and I think that will be off the back of several riots from the fans and protests, and the board probably announcing they're going to step down properly this time. So there'll be a fresh clear out. Probably Duncan Ferguson back in as director of football or something like that. And then they play Bournemouth at home. First game after the turmoil of losing to Luton Town.
So you can almost all that protesting can go really, really wrong, and they could possibly go ahead and still lose. Very difficult one to see because it's just such a such disruption there at the moment.
I'm going to say that they are going to end up drawing that game, but it will be a controversial refereeing decision that causes them to draw, which is going to galvanize the fans.
Or VAR, dodgy VAR, as per usual.
Yeah, it'll be a decision made which is not right, and it doesn't get reviewed by VAR properly.
But Anthony Taylor.
And so they will end up drawing a game they should have won.
Should have won, yeah.
And that's what the fans will be galvanised by.
Stoking the fire.
Then they play Liverpool away. So that's self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
Points to the Reds. And then they round it up with a game against West Ham away from home.
Another potential winnable one with the squad that West Ham have.
But then also West Ham will be in the middle of the European run at that point.
It depends on how strong their squad is. I again see this as another one where if there's opportunity to be taken, take it. I'm not saying West Ham are going to be absolute cannon fodder, but I am saying that the balancing of their squad is going to tell so much because, you know, this is what the problem they had last year, even in the Conference League. So for the Europa League, where you're probably going to need even better players, possibly, this is going to be another one that's going to be like, if we're going to get a win, we're going to get it here. Because possibly, if we're talking after these first few games, I think we're only having Everton to win at least maybe 4 or 5 times. So let's say they do that. But anything less than that, you might argue that Dyche's job could be under threat.
It could be. And I think that's a game they could definitely win, like you said, maybe a draw. I do think what's going to be really important for Everton coming into this season is goals. We've known with teams at the bottom that you either have to have a brilliant defence as well as capable goal scorers. Nottingham Forest, they had goals in them, and that's what kept them up in the end. And then Keylor Navas came in and kind of turned up. The defence performed enough in key games to get them over the line. But you need goal. You need a goal scorer. You need a person that can get you at least 10 league goals, and
who's fit,
and who stays fit. So I think for me, if I'm Dominic Calvert-Lewin now in this preseason period, getting ready for the season, I think you got to look at it and say, you know, I want to aim for 22 goals in the league this season.
You can do that.
And that would put you back in that conversation alongside the likes of Kane, Ivan Toney, and the like. That's where you want to be. You want to be in that conversation like you were a few years ago when there was rumours of Arsenal maybe going to bring you in prior to Jesus coming in. Obviously, we scrapped that whole idea. But that's where he wants to end up now, is being back in that conversation. And if you can do that, then I think things could be really interesting. If not, then Everton really could struggle this season more so than they have done in previous years. And I think it could be worse because of how the season ended, because of that emotional outpouring on the final game of the season. It was a lot. And
also because the likes of clubs around them, like your Villas, your Brightons, potentially even your Fulhams, your West Hams, even your Burnleys are not going to be are not necessarily going to be the whipping boys just coming up because of the football, just purely be down to the football that they played. And we already have them down to win most of their, maybe even 7 of their first opening games. You know, they're going to be at the mercy of clubs like those that have moved on in such a short space of time. It's only been a year that has happened, and companies turning around to be a different team. De Zerbi's turned down Brighton. Unai Emery's turned around Villa. Poch could still turn around Chelsea. You're having a turnaround at Arsenal. Majority of the clubs right now are turning around and moving on to a completely new identity, or they have a goal and set in mind. Whereas if Everton, it feels like they've been stuck for the last 2 years, riding on a hope and a prayer and just trying to kind of seeing what can happen. They made a poor inclusion with Frank Lampard. It wasn't the best move. I mean, he was young. Everton was not an experiment that he should have gone to. I'm still convinced that Lampard probably should have gone to the Championship, maybe even League One, to truly get his chops, or maybe learn being an assistant under somebody to truly gain more experience. I think with Everton, with the players they have, because the Thing ball barely saved them, Dyche ball barely saved them. They finished at 17th, barely saved them. They got goals in them with Iwobi, with Mope, and indeed with Calvert-Lewin. So it kind of needs a bit more of a manager that plays some top quality football. And I know he didn't work with us, but it could be a chance of redemption because he'll have a bit of redemption. It wouldn't surprise me if Potter was to step back in. Maybe the Everton job could be his, because the expectation is going to be just survive, stay up. Don't worry about the cups. Just get us higher than 17th for the second time. I mean, if they got to say 11th would be a start. and then try and establish. I think Everton's going to be an easier one because of the expectations rather than what Chelsea had, and they're more likely. Plus, with his want for English players, I think they're more likely to listen to that request. They're more likely to get in young English talent to potentially move on. Get them good, and then move them on. But that could be my first call of the season. I think Dyche will be one of the first ones to lose his job if it goes really poorly. It wouldn't surprise me if someone like Potter would step in. So,
Well, Graham, the job might be running at a horizon for you, and if not, just keep resting and learning new things.
Yeah, I think obviously the first 10 games are huge and, they kind of set the tone for the season. You want to get off to a good start. Like, Arsenal got off to a big start last year and it set them in the right direction for the rest of the season. Obviously, Liverpool did the opposite. There's a few other kind of mixes. Man City tend to have a slow start to the season, but then they get firing and, win their last 30 games. So, yeah, I'll go from 10 to 1, yeah?